It's one thing to make generic prayers, however sincere, for our community, and it's another thing to target our prayers with spiritual accuracy. Any intercession for a city, a town, or a region is meaningful, but understanding can increase effectiveness in intercession and spiritual warfare. Spiritual mapping is a recently adopted term to describe a new dynamic sphere of Christian ministry that is helping many as they seek to discern and break the real strongholds of the enemy. That is, in Bible terms, our enemy, the adversary, the devil, and the demonic forces of hell he commandeers. In this lesson, Peter Wagner seeks to help us see that spiritual mapping is biblical. This can greatly increase our readiness for prayer and deepen our convictions that we're on solid Bible-based turf as we adopt this means for prayer. I think you'll be especially moved as Dr. Wagner gives examples of how prayer targeted through spiritual mapping has helped spread the gospel in many areas.
Very excited about about this section on spiritual mapping this afternoon, because for one thing, this is, as I mentioned yesterday, some of you didn't hear that, this is the first time I've done this lecture, and it's always a lot of fun for me to do a lecture for the first time. It's not always fun for the people who hear it. So there is a spirit called a harlot, a principality, who dominates nations, who dominates territories, who dominates people groups very, very clearly, to such an extent that she has fornication with kings. I can give you an example of how she does this. Japan, as a nation, is one of the nations of the world which has consciously, openly invited national demonization. And they do this through what's called the Daijosai ceremony, where when a new emperor comes in, and we had a new emperor about 3 or 4 years ago, when a new emperor comes in to power, this Daijosai ceremony takes place, which is a Shinto-based ceremony. And as a part of this ceremony, the emperor goes to this specially chosen, specially built place. I think it cost him, I forget, something like $50 million to put this thing on, to build these places. He eats rice that has been planted and harvested and chosen through witchcraft. And at a certain time that night, the sun goddess visits him in person and has sexual intercourse with the emperor. It's a very, very powerful thing. So the emperor becomes one flesh with the sun goddess. And that's an invitation for the sun goddess to continue to demonize the whole nation. And Japan is under the power of the sun goddess. Their flag indicates that, the land of the rising sun. The whole thing is glorifying the sun goddess. And it's interesting that this new emperor, since the day that he went in and became one flesh with the sun goddess, you ask, is this physical or not? It could be, because there is a certain spiritual phenomenon, spirits of succubus, that's called succubus. There is a documented physical relationship between human beings and demonic beings. But even if it isn't physical, it doesn't make any difference, because the whole spiritual significance is that the emperor becomes one flesh with the sun goddess. And that gives her the right to rule Japan until the next emperor comes along, or until the emperor renounces it, which this emperor's father did after World War II. That's why so many people were saved in Japan at that time. Then he slipped back and reestablished his ties with the sun goddess. But since the night that the present emperor slept with the sun goddess, the stock market in Japan has gone down. It's never come up since. This has been a disastrous year. The first year the rice harvest failed, the first year Japan has ever had to import rice. I mean, for Japan to import rice is not just economic disaster, they lose face, which for Japanese is a very serious thing. The automobile industry is falling apart because of the yen. The yen is becoming so strong against the dollar they can't export anything and sell anything. I mean, This country has really gone downhill from, check it. Some people say it's just a coincidence. Okay. See, we don't think so. We who are in spiritual mapping, we don't think so. We think that there is something really significant happened when she was invited, because this devil comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And that's all they want to do. Steal, to kill, and to destroy. See? And this harlot in the book of Revelation, it even says she had fornication with kings. Number 2.
God's prophetic time clock is the nation of Israel. The church on the way has been uniquely called into a new season of extended revival. Why? Because Israel, God's prophetic time clock, is clicking.
Don't miss Paul Maguire speaking at the Church on the Way. Here on God TV.
Well, a very precious God bless you from me, Rory Alec.
And from me, Wendy Alec.
Welcome to Apocalypse and the End Times. It's a subject that has often been overlooked and ignored in the church today. Today's guest on Behind the Screens, Paul Maguire. He's a commentator on Fox News, CNN, and an internationally recognized biblical prophecy expert.
He's written several books, including The Warning and Are You Ready?, covering many subjects on the end times, including globalization, the Illuminati, New World Order, and much, much more. He's interviewed many celebrities, politicians, senators, generals from the Pentagon, and is a professor at Jack Hayford's King's College and Seminary on Israel and Bible prophecy.
Paul, we welcome you. Thank you for joining us today.
Bless you.
We got lots of questions for you, Paul.
Okay.
I think we kind of need to dive right into them.
All right. The breeding of a master race. Now here we are in a world where we're moving rapidly towards a new world order. These men with these occult ideas have not disappeared. They have merely moved underground. They want to see 3 billion people taken off the planet, either through war, genocide, starvation, or abortion, because their target goal is a planet Earth with a population of about 1 or 2 billion people. That's their ideal population pool. They want to see a green planet. Well, we all want to see a green planet. But they intend to do that by exterminating. They tend to do that by exterminating undesirable races or people with defects, because their goal, once again, is to create a counterfeit kingdom of God on earth, a counterfeit utopia. But it gets heavier than that, and I touch upon this in my book, The Day the Dollar Died, and you can get my free intelligence report at paulmaguire.com and sign up for the free intelligence report. Underground, in laboratories across the world and in the United States of America, there are cloning experiments going on, genetic engineering experiments going on, for 2 reasons. They want to give the wealthy the ability to live forever, so they're growing human body parts in secret laboratories so that this wealthy elite can live forever and they can treat their diseases. So the wealthy are busy, I'm talking about the super wealthy, making themselves available to this cloning genetic technology so they can live to be 200, 300 years. Number 2 is they are breeding behind the scenes, just like Adolf Hitler, behind the scenes in secret laboratories. They are breeding a master race